So we're gonna do this a little bit different. I'm just gonna have everybody make sure their screens are in speaker view. And if you don't know what that means, in the top right-hand corner of Zoom, there's a little view button. If you click on that, just make sure speaker view is selected. So I'm gonna control everything from my side as far as screen share goes. So, okay. Go ahead and minimize this, move this out of the way. And boom. So now you should see my screen. Yes, you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, audio cut out. Okay. So today, obviously, we're going to talk about Office 365 and what that can mean for your business or your organization. Generally, the way that I present this to my clients is it's just a great organic way for you to be in one ecosystem. A lot of times I find clients are using multiple services across different providers. That can mean anything from G Suite to Dropbox to all sorts of other things, depending on what you're doing. Could even include things like Monday.com, Trello, other types of project management services, other chat services. And so there's a lot of options just kind of all over the board out there right now. And so, like I said, the way I present to my clients is that you can bring all of those solutions into one cohesive ecosystem within the Microsoft network. The nice thing about that is generally you're going to pay less. And then you get all the same features and functions as what you're using existing with those solutions, plus a bunch of other stuff generally that people don't think about. So what I've done today is we're just going to walk through just kind of a demo account, just so you can kind of see what that looks like. So this office.com is just the sign-in page for that. And again, it's accessible technically from anywhere in the world, which is nice. So I'm just going to go ahead and sign in here. So when you first sign in, you're going to be basically presented with your dashboard. So the dashboard is basically, you know, I'll say the lifeblood, but it's kind of the central of, hey, what do you want to do? Where do you want to go? And what do you want to see? The nice thing about Office 365 is, like I said, it's going to incorporate your email. It's going to incorporate file sharing. It's going to incorporate your copy of Office. It can do other things like project management, depending on, you know, how granular you want to get with that. There's just a lot of different options. And so what I usually like to show clients is this view, which is the all app view. So within Office 365, you have a lot of different options. Most people are aware of things like, you know, Outlook and potentially OneDrive, because a lot of us, you know, get that annoying pop-up from OneDrive on our Windows 10 machines wanting us to sign in. But it's actually there for a reason. And so those are kind of the two common things that most people are aware of. You know, maybe you're aware of your copy of Office, but when you get into using Office 365, you get a whole realm of other things. So the way that they have this set up is, you know, you have bookings. Bookings is a way to do scheduling. So if you want to have on your website, let's say you want to have, you know, a link to a scheduling page where you can offer products and services, or just even somebody to sign up for a meeting with you. That is all built into, again, this system, and it'll come directly to your email. It'll show up on your calendar so that you can see, you know, if somebody has signed up for something, or if they also remove it. So they sign up with you and they go, oh, I don't need that now, and they cancel it. It'll automatically remove it from your calendar. It also is based on time slots that you specify. So you can say, hey, I want, you know, Monday through Friday from 8 to noon is the only time I want to be available. You can also put in lead time. So if you want to have a 15-minute or like a 30-minute lead time, let's say that meeting incorporates some type of drive time here in the Gorge, then you can go ahead and you can add that in as well. So that's bookings kind of in a nutshell. Obviously you have your calendar. Delve is a newer thing, but, you know, basically it's just relevant information about what you're working on. You have online versions of Excel, Word, PowerPoint, Project, Sway, and some other things there so that you're kind of used to. The one thing, and I actually see quite a people that use this, is the form. So if you want to be able to create some type of survey, quiz, poll, whatever you want, have those results available to you in real time, Forms is a nifty tool that is built in and you can create at any time. So, you know, basically it kind of looks like this. You can go in and do a new form. You can choose what you want it to be as you just go through. So you can say, I want choice, I want text, I want like some kind of rating. Does there need to be a date in there? There's rankings, net promoter scores. There's all kinds of stuff you can do within Forms now, which is really nice. So again, I've seen lots of businesses actually already using that, especially like chambers like to use it because it gives them the ability to put out polls and different things that they're doing very easily. Then you have Kazala, which is a mobile chat client that's available. You can create lists. You've got an analytics piece, so you can see things like how your work habits are in terms of your meetings, email, focus on your hours. You do have the OneDrive piece, which I'll circle back because I like to cover that in a little bit different way. OneNote, again, your Outlook, your people, which would be considered your contacts within the ecosystem. Your planner, so you can create plans, organize tasks, share files, and do all kinds of that stuff. Power Apps. Power Apps is a fairly new thing that I like to show people. You can actually automate all kinds of stuff within Power Apps. So if you want to create data flows, you want to create specific applications, chatbots, there's AI builders. This is all built in so you can do things again within the Microsoft ecosystem. As an example, I use Power Apps to create notifications if clients have, you know, uploaded files or what created new whatever in, you know, a SharePoint file or directory that I've given them. So it's just a great way to do a lot of different things. You also have Power Automate, which is again more the automation side of things. And then Teams, which we'll go into just a little bit later. Obviously, you have your to-do options. They have a video option where you can share videos, you know, if you're doing classes, meetings, presentations, that kind of stuff, you can pop that in there. I want to say it's similar to like a YouTube type scenario. So it's more built around content for you and your organization. So if you're creating training videos or that kind of thing, that's where you put that information. You also have a whiteboard. It is designed more around, obviously, if you're using a Surface tablet or some type of tablet like that, it's a free app that you can get, but it's nice because you can sync that information between the tablet and even your workstation, which I do because I use a Surface tablet as my laptop. So I can write notes in the whiteboard and then just come back once it's synced, sit down to my desktop, open up the whiteboard app, and I can see all those notes that I've created on my desktop, which is a really nice thing. So that's kind of the dashboard apps that are available to you in a nutshell for the most part. Project is available at a higher tier of, we'll just say licensing. So that is an option. Again, if you want to get more granular on projects, that's also an option that's included. So again, it just depends on what you want to do. I usually like to stop every few minutes and just kind of we'll stop there and say, does anybody have any questions so far? You're muted.
So is this a program that you buy, or is it something that you install and you pay for annually or monthly, or what kind of product is this?
So yeah, that's a good question. There's actually a lot of different things. So when you're talking about Office 365 in general, some of these are apps that would be installed on your local computer, such as obviously your copy of Office. You know, you're used to having Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, OneNote, Access, you know, Teams is also included in that, and also the business version of OneDrive. So that's kind of your default app bucket, if you will. But a lot of these other things are web-based, but they do connect with the Office apps themselves. It's all subscription based. So there's different levels. It can be anything from, I just want email, to I want everything underneath the sun. And we'll talk a little bit more about the pricing structure and what that looks like depending on your business a little bit later. But that's kind of how that all works is, yeah, some of these are downloadable apps. Some of them are specific to just like a web app type scenario. Does that make sense?
And so like we already have, excuse me, we already have Outlook. So that really doesn't change for us. It's just.
So here's the way that I explain that. Outlook is an app, not a service. So a lot of people like to get confused because I'll say Microsoft did create, you know, Outlook.com as like a ongoing email, you know, type function. And so Outlook itself is just an email application. That's all it does. You know, it's more than that. I mean, obviously you've got calendar, you've got your contacts in there. There is some task oriented things that you can do. So, but it's just an, you know, it's just an application, meaning I could connect Outlook to my GorgeNet email, to my Gmail account, to my Hotmail account. So any email service that I want to put in there, it's just a viewer for those emails.
And so with the Microsoft 365, am I understanding this right, that it kind of ties your programs together a little bit better, or like integrates them together?
Yeah, so
like your Outlook and your.
So here's an example. I'll pull up my email. So my email right now, obviously I've got the undercurrents for 415 up. So my email is all tied into my Office 365 account. That's actually where my email service is I use Office 365 for my email service. It provides me with all of my Office applications, again, Outlook, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, etc. But it's all tied in together. So, you know, my calendar that I see here, you know, I was talking about bookings earlier. This calendar for me is tied into bookings. So when you look at a bookings, or you go to do a booking on a web, you know, on the site, anything that I have scheduled on my calendar, you will see as an unavailable slot within bookings. That's how that ties in. There's other things too. So let's say that I want to open up Word. Okay. So here, so I'm going to do a blank document. Okay. And I go, hey, I'm, you know, blah, 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 blah. I want to go ahead and save this in a cloud. So I can hit the save button. And by default, it's automatically already asking me, do you want to save this to your OneDrive account? Now, I don't want to save it to that specific one. So, you know, I'm going to choose a different option. So I'm going to go in here and browse. But let's say I want to save it to my work OneDrive account. So I can go in here and just go save. Bloop, and it pops it into my, you know, work OneDrive, which again is associated with my Office 365 account. So now all I have to do is sign into Office 365 online, and I've got all of these documents or whatever I've saved to the cloud in the cloud as well. And that's what I do. So I can sync all my documents that I use in my business between not just my desktop, but my phone, my laptop, my home computer, whatever I want. I mean, I could come to your office, sit down on your computer, just log in with my account and access all my files that I put into the cloud. So when we talk about, you know, working remotely, when we talk about resource sharing, those kinds of things, that's, you know, when I talk about tying everything in, one login gets you all of this no matter what. You know, if you wanted to email via Dropbox, you know, or share out via Dropbox, well, that's not part of this ecosystem. So now you're going to have to log into something else or share it a different way, which you can do, but it is nice to have everything, like I said, under one login. Because if you went to another machine, you know, if you want your files, you're going to have to log into Dropbox separately from your email.
Okay, one last question, then I'll. So we have, can you add to this? Because like we have a chamber specific database software?
You're talking about like Chamber Master?
It's like Chamber Master, but it's a different
Okay.
brand. But
So-
can that be added to this access or no?
So that's not going to be added to this specifically. The way that I generally see most that happening for most chambers or businesses in general is that application generally is only going to communicate via email. Like I'll use Chamber Master as an example because that's what the, a couple of the other chambers use. When we do it for them, they're just using email addresses within Chamber Master to send via Office 365. So they're using their email addresses through that service. It's potential that some applications may or may not have integration into Office 365, but that's going to vary depending on who the manufacturer is and what they actually do. So that's more integration on the app side than it is Microsoft. Microsoft supports pretty much everything. So, if you want integration, that's really on the app development side of whatever company you're looking at. So,
You.
Yeah, I have a
Well-
question for you.
yes.
So the screen that you have there that has all of those different applications,
Yes.
yeah. I think one of our questions was, for example, I use Word and I have Excel and I, use those all the time.
Yep.
How do I know if I've got, what is it, Foray, the one that's on the top? I use OneNote, but right above OneNote, I think, doesn't that say Foray?
Forms.
Forms. Oh, sorry, it's blurry on my screen. So Forms. How would I know if I have access to all of these things?
So it is going to vary by license. So that's
Okay.
more of a
Okay.
licensing question, and licensing, it's really kind of hard to pull up. I look at licensing in a few different ways. So if we look at Microsoft 365 Exchange plans, it's where I usually start people. Just because, like I said, it's an email only option. So generally you just have two plans. You have your Exchange Online Plan 1 and Plan 2. Services, basically it's just email. That's all it is. When you go to Plan 2, you can get your storage increased to 100 gigabytes versus 50 gigabytes. There's some other stuff in there, unified messaging services and some other data, sensitive or DLP policies that you can apply on the stand. The next one from there that generally ends up happening is people end up going to business standard. So most of my clients are on. There are some, that's going to include your copy of Office. That's going to include everything that I talked about in terms of OneDrive, SharePoint. It's going to include Forms. But a lot of these options are a la carte. Microsoft, unfortunately, doesn't go like here's a website with all of our options and all the licensing. So I usually break it down to Exchange, small business, and then enterprise licensing. Does that make sense?
Yep. Thank you.
So, just trying to circle back around. You were talking about just even more of integration. So, I was talking about OneDrive and SharePoint, and obviously we're just talking about how I save those files and access them from anywhere. OneDrive and SharePoint, in my mind, are two totally different things. They are synonymous with each other because most people are used to thinking of OneDrive being, again, that annoying pop-up that you get on Windows 10, and what does it actually do? Well, OneDrive gives you 1 terabyte of cloud storage for your individual user. That is different than SharePoint. SharePoint actually gives you 1 terabyte of shared storage for your company or your organization as it's known. So those two things are completely different. SharePoint's over here. That's all the files that you would put as your business. OneDrive's over here. That's all the files that are specific to you as an individual user. So those look completely different as well when you're signed up. Again, if you look at mine, I've got 2 over here on the left. One is I've got my OneDrive, which says DirectLine-IT. That's my personal OneDrive account. But just above it, we've got a little guy here that looks like a couple of buildings that says DirectLine-IT. That is OneDrive, or, SharePoint, if you will, in the cloud. So I've got two different accesses here to get to two totally different things. SharePoint, like I said, if you're a part of a team, which we'll get into that in a little bit, there's lots of different ways to do it. A lot of people don't realize, as I like to put it, SharePoint's kind of like the back end for almost all things Microsoft. When you're looking at OneDrive online, it's SharePoint. When you're looking at other applications or other services online, it's actually SharePoint. Like when you were looking at forms, that's really just an application that's running in SharePoint. So SharePoint is designed to do all kinds of things. It's very powerful. It can be your intranet. You can create a wiki within it if you want to. You can have custom apps that are built. You can put a database within SharePoint. The options are almost limitless as to what you can do within SharePoint. So most people that, again, most of my customers are just using it for the file sharing aspect of things. But it can be so much more depending on what your organization needs and what you want it to do. So that's kind of, covering SharePoint and the like. Any questions on that? Okay, moving on. So to kind of bring it back around, probably the biggest request I get here lately is, Teams. What is Teams? How can Teams benefit my business? Like, what is this whole Teams thing? So Teams has kind of morphed over the years from a few different things. So originally you had Lync, LYNC, which was an older Microsoft application that first incorporated things like chat, video chat within a business or enterprise environment back in the day. Microsoft then kind of said, well, we're going to take that one step further, and now we have Skype for Business. So Skype for Business kind of was its own thing out in the world, and you still had Lync, and they just went and they morphed the two together. So Office 365 or Microsoft 365, as it's known now, had Skype for Business early on, and then they came out with Teams. So Teams is pretty much everything that it's, those previous incarnations have been, but it incorporates a whole lot more. So when you look at Teams as an example, you've got different teams that you can create. So you can be a part of multiple teams. If you are in a larger organization, that could mean you're part of the HR team, you're part of the financial team, the tech team, the whatever team that you've got going on, you can create a team specifically for that. And even within teams, you can create additional channels. So channels are used for different things. You can see here, if I just click on my general channel, I can do posts. So think social media. That could mean anything like, hey, here's a daily task, or hey, I've got this, or I want to do a new conversation. There's all kinds of things you can do within posts, but it's more of that social media kind of flow. Even if it's a, hey, people, we've got a note on this today kind of a thing. You can upload your files. So again, we were talking about integration. All of these files come within Teams, which is again part of SharePoint on the back end. So all of these files that you have here, could be whatever you want. It can be, videos, Word docs, Excel, pictures, anything that you could think of, you're going to put in here. That again is pertaining to that specific team. You can have a wiki for the team if you want to. So you want to create something that's process oriented that can be searched for later. You want to put your employee manual in here or whatever that looks like. All of that type of stuff could be in a wiki. And you can also rename it and do other things at any time. You can create daily tasks. So this is where I kind of get into kind of a Trello / Monday.com kind of almost project workflow, where you can create lists, you can create boards, you can look at charts if you want to. You can also look at a schedule. So all of these options are in here, and you can also group these by bucket. But you can come in here, and it's nice because it's drag and drop, just like Trello or anything else anymore. you know, so you can drop it in the completed bucket and say, okay, this is complete. These are in tasks. You can assign, you know, I can add a task like, hey, you know, upload this video to youtube.com. Okay. So I can set a due date. Okay, I need to get this completed by tomorrow, and I'm going to assign it to myself. Now that task has been added. So I've got it on my to-do. I can drag it over here to whatever. Because I've got a date, I can look, you can see that I've got a virtual calendar within Teams that's for me. Upload this video. So I've got an action item tomorrow. I can come in here to that item if I want to add any additional notes if I need to. And then once I'm done, we can go back to the board and say, okay, this is complete. We'll just drop it in the complete container. Boom, done. So now it's still on my schedule, but it's marked as done and it's crossed out, meaning I've completed that task. So again, you can create a simple project management workflow within Teams that is, you know, again, depending on what you want. I'm actually currently going through this setup with the Dallas Chamber. They were using Monday.com previous, and they just didn't really like it. And so we talked about Teams, and we're incorporating their whole ecosystem into this so that they can create, again, task-oriented projects that can be assigned. And they, like I said, you can do whatever you want. So if you come back to the general, like I said, you could create under one team. I can come in here and go like, okay, I want to add a channel. Let's call this channel, you know, Hops Fest. Just thinking of Hood River. So I can create a channel now called Hops Fest. And now I can go in here and I can create, you know, add additional items. So I can add a tab. And again, you have all kinds of options when it comes to what's integrated with Teams. Some of this is outside. I can even add in Trello to this if I want to. But I know that based on what I just did, I just want to ask a task planner. So we're just going to add a task by planner and to do, tab name, so we can create it whatever we want. So we want the tab name to just be event. Okay. Oops. So save that. So now I have a tab up here, which is a task-based planner specifically for the event. So I can add any task. I can add a new bucket. What do I want the bucket name to be called? I can do all of those things within Teams. So not to dive in too much of everything, because Teams literally could be its own lunch and learn. But that's an example of task-oriented project management that you can do within Teams. Because like I said, this all goes back to, I can upload files specifically as it pertains to this event. I can create, you know, posts, whether it's a, hey, yeah, we heard back from so-and-so today, blah, 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 you know, hit it. And now that's in here and everybody within the team can see that that's updated and taken care of. You can also chat with people. So you can create chats based on all kinds of information. You know, you can view your calendar from within here. So everything that was on my Outlook calendar, guess what? It's also on my Teams calendar. Technically, you can actually use Teams as a phone system. They actually may have the ability to use it as a phone system. You can also, again, view all of your recent files. So Teams in itself is, again, it's just a big, ginormous hub of stuff that I'll say gives you a lot of things like what you have online, but within an application on your desktop if you want to. So I know that was a lot, but what questions do you got?
Of course, I have a question. So would this just be for our office, or can you include people outside your office on Teams, like say our board?
Yes, so you can add guests to Teams. I'm actually the guest of multiple teams. So like I have a couple clients that use Teams regularly, and I am added as a guest organization within their teams, so that they, you know, we can chat with each other. They can share stuff with me, whatever they want.
But they would have to have Teams as well.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. But they don't. Yeah. So like let's say you set up teams within your organization and you needed somebody to be added as a guest. They would just simply need to create a Microsoft account with their email to be able to join you. So it's not anything special. And that's one thing I bring up when we talk about just all this in general, in terms of some of the differences between what's out there. I use both Google Drive, and I use Dropbox as this example. Microsoft is the only company that does not require you to have a login with them to use things like file sharing. If I want to share a file with you, I just share the file with you and you can go in and you can view it. If you're trying to share files within Dropbox or Google Drive, you have to have an account respectively with those organizations in order to view the files that are shared with you. So that's one thing right there that I love about Microsoft. One of the other things I bring up is the security side of things. Gmail and Dropbox both do things differently in terms of how they secure data. Gmail, I believe, secures it in transit, but not at rest. Dropbox secures it at rest, but not in transit to some extent. I mean, they do, but it's not what you would think. So those two things alone, Microsoft's really the only company that's securing your data both in transit and at rest to make sure you're fully secured. They're also the other company out there that actually covers almost all major entities of compliance, meaning they cover HIPAA compliance, which I know Gmail does too, and so does technically Dropbox. But Microsoft's the only one that I'm aware of that does things like what we call GCC High, which is a government compliance for like DoD, military, top of the line. They also have what they call regular GCC, which could be other types of government compliance. I could think of like municipal governments, state governments, those kinds of things that may have secure information that they want to have within there. So yeah, it's just another example of security and having everything ease of use cohesively for your clients and for your employees.
So if we were to ask our board members, this would be to sign up for Teams, so we could share things with them on Teams. They could just do that for free, really, it sounds like. Is this
yeah, as long as they have a Microsoft account, you could add them in as a guest user for Teams.
Okay.
Yep. Yep.
Cool.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people that do that. I mean, it's not uncommon anymore to to not have that availability, to the board, to whatever. There's obviously, we're doing a Zoom call right now, but you can use Teams for all of that.
Right.
As an example, one of my clients is Skyline Hospital, and they use Teams for all their virtual visits because they're already paying for Microsoft Office and they already have their 365 account. Again, it's already built in. Why pay for another solution when you don't need to? And you can invite people. You can even invite people that, like I said, have a Skype account. So it doesn't always have to be a Teams account. As long as they have like a Skype account, you can, invite them in. So again, Teams is super flexible in almost anything you want it to do when it comes to communication, collaboration, project management, those kinds of things, are what I talk about with my clients. So the other thing, kind of go into past teams is that, I hit on the project management piece. I just sat down with Gorge Realty Group about this, and they were looking at project management. So I kind of asked when I talk about how granular do you want to get. Teams will do a lot for you, but it depends on what your level of project management is that you want. That's why you may be looking at actually having Project. So Project is also a downloadable app. So there is an actual app for it. But Project has kind of, in my mind, been the industry standard for projects in general since day one. That's interesting. I'll fix that. So again, depending on what licensing you want to be at and whatever, Project is an option for you. as well. So just because you do something over here doesn't mean you can't sometimes add an option a la carte onto your plan if you want to. Any questions on that stuff? So kind of to follow this up, we talked about plans and pricing. It's not too bad. It just, like I said, it kind of depends. An exchange plan one, that's your email only account, it's going to run you $4 a month. Like I said, most of my clients are in the small business standard plan, which includes most everything here. There's a few things it doesn't include. I'm on an enterprise level plan on this account we're looking at. So that's why you see project listed, because that's an enterprise only option. And there's some other things with Microsoft Azure and syncing there that you can do. But generally, they're, like I said, they're at the standard plan, which is going to run you $15 a month per user. That gives you 1 terabyte, like I said, of storage for your individual user on OneDrive. You'll automatically at that point have SharePoint, which gives you 1 terabyte of combined storage there. And then you've got 50 gigabytes of data for your individual email account. And then all of the apps, you get your copy of Office for your individual user on up to 5 devices. So that means that, if you've got a laptop, a desktop, or whatever you've got going on there, you can install your copy of Office across all of those devices under that one license. So there's actually a great value right there, because Office, just a copy of Office only right now runs you $100 annually for just a copy of Office. So when you do the math, and you take the $4 a month on top of that, it's really not that far off with everything else you're getting on an annual basis, because you're at what, $825 a month. I think if you divide the 99 up between the 12 months plus the 4, you're already at $1225 a month for just copy of Office and email. So for a few bucks more, you get all of this other stuff. So the value is really there. Enterprise licensing, again, can vary. Generally, if you wanted to compare the same thing in an enterprise license, you're going to go up $5 a month to generally E2 or E3 license, and those can vary, but they usually start about $20 a month there. What the enterprise licensing does that is different, like I said, you do get a few more options and applications. There's some other things such as Azure. Azure is a cloud-based kind of environment that is designed to work in conjunction with Active Directory. So I know this doesn't apply to you guys specifically who are on the call, but like if you were in an Active Directory environment for small business, there are things that you can do both at the small business level with Azure and at the enterprise level. Case in point, again, the Dallas Chamber, my other client, we're using it to sync all of their on-premise users to the cloud. So they have an Active Directory server. So any user I create there automatically creates a user for me in Office 365. All I have to do is just go in and sign a license. And the nice thing about that is now your computer password matches with your email password. So in those types of mixed environments, you've got one password across all of your devices, which is great. You can also implement multi-factor authentication with those services. You can also implement what we call SSO or single sign-on at different levels. Single sign-on would mean like I log into my computer and then I open up office.com, it automatically logs in for me and I don't have to enter in my password. So there's a lot of great features, again, and functionality depending on what your business is. And it doesn't matter if you're a one-man shop or a 100-employee business, it's going to scale to whatever need that you have within your organization. So, questions on that stuff? No? Yes? So, yeah, so that's basically Office 365, Microsoft 365 in a nutshell. Like I said, there's all kinds of other things. I mean, like I said, I could do a lunch and learn just on Teams and its own thing. Trying to explain to people the ins and outs of what it can and can't do. I should say mostly what it can do. But a lot of businesses are going to this type of ecosystem because, like I said, the perks are one bill. Like I said, for $15 a month, you could pay for your email, your copy of Office, and get rid of your Dropbox account. That alone will save you money as a business. Those three things right there. So, you know, because Dropbox is, I think for a paid business account starts at like around $40 a month for 2 users. They do offer a little bit more in the storage capacity, but you know, when you're adding each user on and you look at that, and then like I said, you look at how much am I paying over here for email? How much am I paying for my copy of Office for each one of my employees? Speaking of Office, one thing I thought of, it does work on both Apple and PC, by the way. So you can have Apple users in this environment if you have them. But yeah, once you start adding all of those things together and what they're doing, again, depending on the organization, most of the time it is cheaper. You get more cohesive results when you just bring everything over to Microsoft. I haven't found a use case yet where Microsoft will not do what most businesses are doing nowadays. So
We pay, I think, like $16 a month for Zoom too. So,
yep.
I mean,
Yep. Yeah, you could have done this whole thing. You could have done it in Teams.
mhm.
Yep. I mean, I'll admit I pay for Zoom myself just because it's what everybody has. It is kind of hard to get some people on the Teams bandwagon. But if you do it right, yeah, you can save money. Like you said, you can save money, you get more functionality, you get more flexibility. To me, the pros far outweigh any con that you could think of, in my opinion. So that's why I put people there. And like I said, I understand, you know, I support clients that haven't made the change. They're still using G Suite, they're still using Dropbox. And, you know, there is this mindset of, I have to retool my entire organization to now learn a whole new platform. But to me, I feel like you're already living in that ecosystem to some extent using these types of products and functionality. It's not really that far off base to get your team to change. You know, if you're using Dropbox, Office, or, you know, OneDrive is going to function and SharePoint are going to function the same. You know, they're a little bit different. They do have different functionality. But again, it's really not that big of a huge difference to change over to, you know, that scenario. If you're on a G Suite and you're worried about Gmail and your contacts, you can import those, migrate all of that stuff, do it all the time. It's not a huge deal. In fact, I will say that if you're using like Google Drive, I have not heard a single person yet who has lived in the Microsoft ecosystem or even the G Suite Google Drive ecosystem that comes over to Office 365 and says that it's not superior. Because again, it's what you're used to. I mean, how many times a day do you click on File Explorer and you're like, you know, yeah, I'm going to my downloads and, you know, whatever, looking for these things. Well, guess what? OneDrive is set up exactly the same way. When I go online, let me log out of this account. I'll show you my account as an example. Sorry, I got multi-factor authentication. Keep my client stuff secure. Okay, so like I said, if I go into SharePoint for my team, I click on my team site, I go to my documents. This right here, just this window alone looks exactly like what you're viewing within File Explorer. So even the web-based version is not much different. I mean, you click on a file, you're in there, I can see modify, I can add all the different columns that I'm used to, you know, location, all kinds of, you know, fun stuff. So at the end of the day, this kind of Windows setup is not much different than what you're used to in File Explorer. So that's why I tell people, they're like, well, I don't want to have my team have to learn a whole new file sharing platform. There's really not much for them to learn. I mean, if I'm in Internet Explorer or in Explorer, excuse me, and I come in here and I go, hey, I want to share this file. Great. I right click it. I hit share. It pops up the little share window. I say, I want to share it with a specific person. I want to allow them to edit. I can apply that. Now it's going to say, who do I want? So I'm going to send it to Samantha. Okay. Whatever. Put her email address in here and hit send. Now it'll send her an email. She can just click on it. It does use kind of a two-factor authentication. So once she clicks on the link, it sends her an email code. She then puts the code in and she's there. But learning this process isn't much different. Yeah, you've got these icons like the cloud. Cloud just means it's in the cloud. It's not physically living on my local computer. Green check mark would mean that it's on my computer, like this right here. But the cool thing is I can just right click this, and under this little section here, I can hit free up space, and it'll actually remove it from my local computer and put it back in the cloud only. So there's, again, it's kind of, to me, just built into the environment of anyone using a Windows PC is already used to this. I think even if you're on an Apple, you're the same thing. Hood River Chamber is all Apple, and they use Office 365 and SharePoint and OneDrive specifically on their machines. So it's, like I said, the learning curve is not as drastic and as big as I think people like to make it out to seem. And it's not hard to, like I said, switch an organization, and most people are tech savvy enough, they'll figure it out. So, any other questions? Could be anything. Could be, when are we going to sign up with Matt?
Yeah, I like it.
So yeah, like I said, I just want people to be aware that it's like I said, don't be scared. The change is not hard. I do obviously recommend that you hire a professional such as myself to help you if you're not, if you want to do an implementation of this product, because I've done many of these. I've been doing implementations of Office 365 for the last 9 years now. So I have 9 years of experience working within this environment, migrating people's email, getting them all set up, all of that stuff. So, like I said, I feel like it's a great product. I don't say that to try and sound like a Microsoft fanboy, but I say it from a standpoint of, I truly believe it's probably one of the best ecosystems in a product out there that you can get for pretty much any business. I haven't, like I said, I haven't found many cons to where a reason why somebody wouldn't do something. Yes, there are differences. I'm not going to say Microsoft's like Google, and I'm not going to say Dropbox is like OneDrive, because there are some differences there. But again, generally those differences are so minute that it's easy to overcome and do things in a different way. So, well, I think that wraps it up.
Samantha, it was nice to meet you.
Oh, I was starting my video. It was very nice to meet you as well. I was thinking, oh, I can't speak unless I'm on video. That's not the case.
How do we do, boss?
It's great to meet you as well.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks, Matt. You guys have a great Thursday.
Go get your
You
1 o'clock.
too.
All right. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
So you
Well,
guys
sorry
have,
we didn't have more participants, but like I said, we'll.
it's like
have-
par for the course lately. I don't know. I mean, it's not your guys' fault. In fact, I did $100 promotion on Instagram. So I don't know if you guys saw my Instagram that I have a new social media guy, and he created a whole post around just this, and I promoted it on Instagram the last 2 days.
Oh, wow.
So
We don't
but
have
like
Instagram, so we missed it.
well, like I said, I just do that because I invited some different people. Samantha, obviously I invited, she wanted to come see how I do things. I invited Mary Ellen from the chamber here. she forgot back of the text her. I'm like, are you joining? She's like, oh, we're moving stuff today. I'm like, okay. Because I don't know if you heard, so the Hood River Chamber is moving into, they're reopening the visitor center at the Hood River Museum.
Oh, good,
So
good.
yeah.
So they'll be back down on the waterfront, but in the
just
museum
farther
building?
down. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
okay,
it's basically go like you're going to the old chamber,
Yeah.
and you would just keep to the left and follow it all the way around to the museum, and they'll be in the museum now. So
oh,
I think
nice.
they're shooting for May 1st. I
Wow,
think it's technically they're trying to be in there. So yeah, it'll be a little bit, it'll be kind of, I don't want to say a soft opening. Just what I know is I think they're gonna, like Marianne said, I think she's gonna be in there like half day for a little bit. I think they'll see how it goes. And then, again, depending, may hire another position, a volunteer or somebody to be in there and do just the visitor center side of the things. So
Hood River's reopening their visitor center in the museum down there on the waterfront.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
that's awesome.
I'm so glad, because it's good to have a physical location.
Yeah.
yeah,
Especially-
it's
Especially
been
for a
kind of,
visitor center, you kind of need it for the visitor center part. Yeah,
well,
so-
yeah, because like I said, I'm a part of, I just joined the Goldendale Chamber. Because there's like no IT in Goldendale.
Oh,
Yeah,
how's that possible?
because it's Goldendale.
So you're going to be like the number one.
Well,
Fanboy.
yeah, it's I would say in my shoes, it is a little bit different because, yeah, you're not going to generally find an IT person in some place like Goldendale. It's going to be, you would go to the Dalles, or you'd come to maybe Hood River, or, obviously Rad Comps and White Salmon. But yeah, the small outlying towns generally don't have that kind of service. So it's something that they need. And the last company I worked for, I mean, we used to go to Goldendale fairly often. I mean, we had a couple clients up in the Goldendale area business wise. And, we had people all the time coming into the shop to bring their computers to be worked on from Goldendale, because again, there's nobody up there. So yeah, it'll be interesting. I just, like I said, I like to have a presence in the gorge anyways, no matter what it is. But yeah.
Well, thank you for this today. We kind of got a
Yeah, thank you.
private
Yeah.
session,
Yeah. Good.
but we'll share it out.
Yeah. And like
So-
I said, I don't mind doing these. I don't mind answering questions. It could be a lunch and learn, it could be an after hours, whatever you guys want.